Hi, my name is Willie, and today got a little bit of a deck leveling issue on the old 712H. I've been trying to level this out left and right because I noticed it hasn't been cutting very nice. And if I put this one all the way down, the other one all the way up, it mainly just wants to support this side of the deck. The other side doesn't want to be rolling on the ground correctly. So I thought I would investigate the issue a little bit, and I found that this bar in here is pretty heavily worn. Let's see if I can't get you in there. Yeah, it's had better days. So I have the wheel sitting up high here, and it's also got a little bit of a worn spot in the top of the shaft in here, where this is actually picking up a half an inch or so. So between the wear here and the wear in here, this is up about a half inch higher, and I can't really adjust it a whole lot left and right because of this bar that runs to the other side. I'll show you on this other deck, but one thing I do suggest is whenever you find a deck, just buy them. You can't go wrong buying a parts deck. And this thing looks like crap. It's got rust holes there. It's got rust holes there. It's got rust holes up there. It's got a patch over here. But taking it apart, I noticed that the bushings up here, right there, are in good shape. The pins are in good shape. This piece doesn't have a lot of wear on it. I could reuse this if I had to. These slots aren't worn out. Threads look good here. And then getting over to this half, all these wheels, here, let me use my left hand. All these wheels are pretty tight. So the shaft on this thing, I mean, even this one's actually seized up because it's so tight. So the shaft on this deck is in pretty decent shape. That's the worst one right there. Let me see if I can get a close up of that. Let me get it from this other side. That's the worst wheel of the bunch. And even the threads on here, on this, don't look too bad. They'll clean up on these adjusters. So I'll set those aside. So I'm going to take some parts off of here, but here's that bar I was talking about that runs the width. That kind of keeps me from making too much adjustment from left and right. So we're going to steal the bar off of this, and I'm going to make a bracket to support it on that other deck. We'll see how it goes. I'll turn you on when we get to that point, but even the sticker is in nice shape on this thing. There's even a rust hole over here. The metal in the back doesn't look too bad. I wonder what the deflector or the baffle looks like underneath. Just for giggles. Oh, yeah. I'd say that's had some better days. But the center spindle still spins. These two are locked up. So here's some more nice wheels. These are nice and tight. I'll take them off. They're still spinning. Okay, finished taking the deck all apart. That's got a rust hole in it, and that's got a few rust holes in it. Okay, no, a lot of rust holes in it. I was even kind of surprised to see it. That thing spun. Obviously, can't use that. The belt was in bad shape, but I'm not going to save it because I don't have a 48-inch deck like this lying around. These are all the parts I had pulled off. The lift assembly doesn't have a whole lot of wear on it, so I'm not going to throw that away. And the threads aren't rusted up on the height adjusters. The center spindle looks to be in halfway decent shape, with the exception of that top plate being pretty badly rusted, but it does spin. The other two arbors are seized up, but you never know when you're going to need parts, so I'll set those aside. I have some extra wheels that came off of this deck over here, since these ones are a little more worn out than what was on that other deck. So I took the bar off of that one and put it on here. This is the old bar off the Allis Chalmers. And it's showing a whole lot more wear on the left side of this bar than on the right. So I had noticed that I couldn't really get this to level out very nice back here. There's always less weight on this side than there was on this side since I got it. So I figured replacing that bar would help a lot. I also, I didn't cut that off. I had another one that I had welded onto this rod since the piece that was on here was different. This is the piece I cut off of the bar right here. I had to weld another one from a parts deck to that rod so it would work on here. But another thing I also did is the hole in the bottom of this one over here was oblong from the wear. So I had welded the inside of that and used a carbide die grinder tip to fit the shaft back in it to take up a little more play out of that, so this thing doesn't have any up and down movement in it. And also stuck all the better rollers on here all the way across. I could have drilled holes, and I could have gone without this roller here. Could have taken that one out and have just the ones in the middle, but I'd rather have it the full width to take a little more load off of the fewer number of rollers. Different things like that. I also replaced the bolts on the top for both sides. This bolt's been replaced. That one is just in a slot, so that one doesn't need to be replaced, but this one had a lot of wear on it as well, so that would cause us to sit a little bit lower on this side. Another thing I had noticed when I was leveling it is the blade under here. Let me see if I can't get you a shot. If I can get a hold of the blade. The blade is going up and down in here a little bit, and you have to shim that up. So that's probably giving me 1/8 of an inch lower on this side. But as of now, even with that blade hanging down a little bit, it's only 1/2 inch difference from left to right versus the inch or 1.25 inches I had before. So it's definitely an improvement. Not to mention all the rollers are in nicer shape and tighter now. I do use fluid film to lubricate all the moving points. And a little more detail as to why there's probably more weight on this side of the deck than the other side is probably because this bracket's getting loose on here. The deck is cracking. There's actually grass coming out behind it because of the cracks. So the way this thing is putting force on it forward on this bracket and back on that bracket, it is pushing the actual pivot point off of the deck and cracking it. So this isn't supporting weight on this side like it should. Case in point, I can just spin the pin on this side because it's not supporting any weight, versus the other side is pretty tight. I can't really spin the pin on the other side, so I gotta fix that. So I gotta shim the spindles and fix that to get this thing perfect. But yeah, I was very ecstatic to get that rod off of that parts deck. That worked out pretty nice. So if you can ever get yourself a parts deck, you can't go wrong, especially if you get it for scrap prices. So I thought you'd find that interesting. But it cuts good enough. I mean, the naked eye can't hardly tell the difference. And I'm not going to throw away this old bar, that way I can always replicate it if I have to. One thing I also had to do on this side is because this is off of an FDT deck, and this is a runner board tractor. This came off of a foot dragger tractor, this bracket here. And this is a runner board tractor. Obviously it's got the runner board, so I had to re-drill and tap a hole here to make up that difference in length to match the length on this one from here to here. And I was thinking about putting the slots to help index the deck, but I have a tool I can level the deck with. And I also had to replace the bolt down here because that one was just about broke through from all the wear. Different things like that, so getting there. Oh, another thing I did is because it was broken right where the cotter pin had gone on this side, I had drilled and tapped it for a quarter 20 bolt to hold in here, so I didn't have to worry about drilling another hole for a washer because there's not a lot of wiggle room here because it was a little short. This was a broken rod from a 48-inch deck, and this is a 42-inch deck. So it kind of worked out for me. I put some Loctite on that bolt so it can't come out. So, bit of an update for you. Old Allis Chalmers is still going. A couple other things I'm going to have to fix on this thing is the beveled gearbox has so much side-to-side play in it. Let me see if I can't open this with one hand. Yep. This beveled gearbox has so much side-to-side play in here, which, of course, I can't do it on demand. That shaft is moving back and forth. That when I'm on a hill and it's tilted to the side, it's actually making noise. I also have to replace the idler pulley in here, different things like that. And I'm debating if I want to replace this clutch assembly because that thing is not in too good a shape. Let's see if I can. There we go. You can see how loose that is in there. Getting time to replace that. And there's also a problem with the check valve for forward. Reverse is perfect on this thing. It primes instantly and it goes right away. Forward seems to have a little bit of a leak to it and a priming issue because of a leak. So I'll have to talk to a transmission guy or take a look at repair manuals on Facebook. I'm going to take a look at repair manuals on what to look for on that. I know there's checks to take the valves out and put fluid in and see if they leak, different things like that. I did put some oil on top of the pins, and they're moving pretty free for the relief on top. It's possible I could probably take those pins out from my parts transmission and stick them in here and see if that might eliminate the problem. But other than that, beveled gearbox, transmission, and deck just needs service. As I had mentioned in earlier videos of this tractor, this thing's got a lot of hours on it, because this is already the second engine that's been in here, and there's already been work done on the beveled gearbox. As I can see, it's got Permatex on it, and for how nice the transmission works, I'm sure it's probably had work done on it, because there's no axle seal leaks on here. I had sprayed some fluid film on the seals to keep them from getting rock hard or stiff or anything like that. Just giving some lubrication so they'll last a little bit longer is what I'm guessing. Don't hold me to that, but yeah, there's no leaks back here other than this cap right here. This cap leaks a little bit when it gets hot. And I also am thinking about replacing those rubber lines the end of this year. I'm hoping I don't lose any fluid if I unhook those, but if I do, it's not the end of the world. I'll wait till the end of mowing season. This is something I added to keep the cable from scraping the drive shaft at the beveled gearbox. And I can take this spring off and stick the Brindley adapter on here if I have to. Different things like that. So, still runs good. And even the engine on this thing isn't in all that great a shape. It's starting to be a little bit greedy on oil. Don't know if I'm going to be able to show this up in the camera too good, but you can see it's right in the middle of the add mark. I have to add about a half a quart of oil. I'm going to say it's probably 3/4 of an ounce to a half an ounce per hour of running this thing. It burns oil. I don't smell it and I don't see any smoke, so I imagine it's the cylinder that's got some blow by. Probably a result of it being run without an air filter before I had got it. Some dust might have gone in there and score up the cylinders a little bit. But I have a parts engine out in my shed I'm going to drop off and get checked out, and that'll probably be another winter project. So yeah, it's going to need some work, but still runs. How's that for an example of durability? Just keeps going no matter, regardless of all these issues, it still keeps mowing. Fires up and runs good. So, hope you liked that video. If you did, make sure you give me a thumbs up. Thanks for watching. And before I say goodbye, I'm going to let you guys know I'm going to be doing a video on reconditioning some old batteries soon, now that I have a carbon pile battery tester. So stay tuned for that. I'm hoping I might have that up this weekend. So as I was saying, have a good day. Thanks for watching. Bye.